Our medical specialist, Dr. Karl, who's here via Skype in Toronto. We're going to boost awareness of this whole situation, particularly about the last stages of food preparation, Dr. Karl. Number one, help us understand what foods are particularly susceptible to contamination.
Well, the foods that are the most susceptible are the ones that we call high risk. They tend to be perishable foods. They tend to be foods that are high in protein and have a neutral pH. So they're not acidic, they're not basic. They provide the perfect environment for bacteria to grow and multiply.
All right, so those are some that are some. So what, in terms of what people can do, what can people do to reduce the risk as far as storing food?
Well, temperature is always the key when it comes to preventing food poisoning. So there's a theoretical range of temperatures that we call the danger zone between 4 degrees Celsius and about 70 degrees Celsius. And we try to store food when we're storing food, we want to keep it cold most of the time. So in your refrigerator, your fridge should be below 4 degrees Celsius, and that's how you sort of stop bacteria from multiplying.
Okay, that's important. What about best before dates? How important are those?
Well, those are important. Now, within the best before date, there's usually a margin of safety built in. So if something goes over by 1 day, it's probably not so bad. But you should get into the habit of throwing food out if it goes beyond its best before date.
All right. Also, in terms of reducing the risk, how do you prepare and handle food?
Now that's important, because what you want to do, especially when you're cooking or making things from scratch, is to make sure that you don't cross-contaminate. So things like raw meat, raw chicken, raw fish, these are all what we would consider to be high-risk foods. You don't want the bacteria and other germs from those foods to contaminate cleaner foods or foods that you've already cooked or prepared and are ready for serving. So that usually means separate cutting boards, separate utensils, and cleaning as you go, washing surfaces and sanitizing surfaces.
Yeah, people washing their hands too, because that's also very important. Particularly, we've talked in the past when raw meat, raw poultry products particularly, right?
That's right.
Okay. You know, that's all very good information if you're making your own food. But what the report also pointed to is that about half of the cases of foodborne illness transmission come when we go out to eat, as we so often do, restaurants. So how do you keep yourself safe when you go out to eat?
Well, part of it is in selecting the right restaurants. So in some jurisdictions, it's very easy to find out what the food inspection or what the inspection of that restaurant has revealed. A city like here in Toronto, we post it on signs at the front of the restaurant, so you know how well did that restaurant do in its last inspection. In other places, it may not be as apparent, but if you contact your local public health department, you can find that information out. But in general, you know, you want to select foods that are lower risk if you have any doubts about a restaurant. The vast majority of restaurants are safe, and the ways that food is prepared is safe. So it's just a matter of, you know, taking common sense measures, washing your hands, etc.
Dr. Karl, thank you very much for that. Hopefully we've done our part in boosting education there, as the report recommends. Dr. Karl's our medical specialist. Coming up, we're going to have more